Are you curious about hormone health, perimenopause, menopause, aging, body composition? How about some bodybuilder experience? We've got Laura here. She is going to be interviewed by yours truly, so that way our audience can better get to know her and she can share her expertise and tips for coaching clients. So if you're ready, I want you to listen up and lean in because we are about to elevate your mind. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Amanda.
Good morning. I know. So Laura's in Florida and I'm in Arizona. And so it's 6:30 my time and what is 8:30 your time?
8:30, yes.
Yeah. So you've been rocking and rolling for a little bit already.
Yes, ma'am. Already been working with clients.
Like, oh my gosh. Okay. So what we're doing right now for our audience to know is we want to introduce y'all to our coaches. Laura has been on our podcast before being interviewed by Christina because she actually went through our program and worked with Christina and she loved it so much. And she's going to talk about that as well. But Laura's going to talk about her experience as a coach and her education background because we want our audience to know and those who are inquiring with us that where the other coaches that we mentioned, that they've got certain expertise as well. So not only the mindset, the nutrition, and the training education, but we've all got special niches. So y'all have heard me talk about prenatal and postpartum, but Laura's got her own that she's going to share with us. But Laura, what I first want you to do is talk about like a little bit who you are and kind of how you got here. So what struggles did you have with your exercise, body image, nutrition, mindset, and what led you to want to improve that and actually work on improving that?
Well, gosh, I have such a long story, but I'll keep it as brief as possible. Okay. So currently I'm 64 years old and I am a certified functional diagnostic nutritionist. I have quite a bit of training in the coaching world, nutrition, hormones, long list of all the training. And the reason I got into this is, man, I had a rough life. I came from a really stable family, a wonderful setup from childhood. But at the age of 13, I developed a pretty severe eating disorder. I was like babysitting for the neighbors and pretty much eating everything out of their refrigerator and their pantry when I was there. And I just could not get rid of this binge cycle. So I started gaining weight over the course of my late teens, got pretty hefty, but I wasn't really overweight, but I was really trending in the wrong direction. So, of course, I decided, well, I'm just going to follow all the advice out there, which we didn't have the internet, of course.
Right. You had magazines, which I don't even know which is worse.
I know. So I used to buy all the magazines at the stand, Muscle and Fitness, How to Get Lean and Trim. All this stuff. Yeah. And pretty much every diet out there was like, cut out all your fat, didn't mention basically it didn't even mention protein or carbs. It just said cut out all your fat. So I thought, oh, I'll just do that. So I cut out all my fat and basically ate all carbs, gained more weight, binged more because that set up this whole craving for sugar.
Right.
So that cycle lasted, gosh, an awfully long time. And
like into your 20s or how long?
Oh, well into my 20s. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And at one point, the binges were just so extreme that, I mean, I would sit down and eat a whole recipe of Toll House cookies and a gallon of ice cream in one sitting. And I just kind of blanked out. I mean, it was like
a dissociation or something.
Yeah. It was like, I didn't even, like I lost the time. I sat down to eat and I just 2-3 hours went by. All the food was gone. And I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Who did this?
It's like a drunk blackout.
Oh my gosh.
I did that for many, many years. I got really depressed. I thought, well, I have this problem with eating, so I'll just stop eating.
Yeah.
And when I stopped eating, of course, I had a lot of emotions. My chemistry went completely out of balance. So I thought, well, I need something to make me happy. So drugs, right?
Like food's not it. I think I'll try.
Yeah. So I pretty much tried every drug out there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, alcohol, in my late teens and early 20s was very prevalent. So all the parties and alcohol, staying up till 4 a.m. And all that did was just push me further out of balance. And one day I just said, I have had enough. And I walked away really from my whole friend group because I thought, I just need to figure out how to become happy and healthy and more balanced.
Uh-huh.
And that put me into a couple of years of just really deep dives into self-help books, a lot of internal work like we do here
Yeah.
in our program. I did that on my own. I really just didn't have any resources.
Well,
Uh,
this is probably before like therapy was a thing too, where
yeah,
now like all
yeah.
the millennials are like, oh my God, why didn't she just do therapy? It's like, because Laura's not a millennial like us.
That's not all. I don't even know what generation I'm in. I just the older generation.
Cool one. Yeah, the cool one that,
Yeah,
was fine.
yeah. But I did hook up with a hypnotherapist to work
Oh,
on my
okay.
mindset, and she just helped me so much, and to get out of that all or nothing thinking.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get all the way out of it, but I can say that it was helpful enough that I decided I couldn't really afford her long term because I was in my 20s and broke like everybody else, right, in their 20s. So I decided I'm going to take the money I have and go to hypnotherapy school.
Oh,
So I went to hypnotherapy school to help myself, not to help other
uh-huh.
people. And I just got really good at learning how the subconscious mind and the messages that we store in there. And it's like our software. Our brain's the hardware, but the programs we run are the software. So I worked on restructuring the programming and the messages in my mind.
Interesting.
And that helps so much. But now that we've got the resources, and I went through the program here with Christina because I was so curious. I heard her on a podcast. I thought, I need to know this lady.
Yeah.
So I went through her program, and basically everything that we did there is what I did in my hypnotherapy class. So it was like,
Interesting.
you don't need to like go under. All that is a relaxed state of mind in order to make those changes in the messages. So when I graduated that, I did get good at it, and then I opened my own weight loss center. I think I was like 24, maybe
Wow.
25.
So at this point, were you training too, or was it mostly just nutrition and mindset that was fucking with you?
I was working out, but I had no clue what I was doing. I would just buy a muscle and fitness magazine. I'd
Uh-huh.
look at it was almost all male bodybuilders at
Yeah.
the time. I'd look at what they were doing and I would just do that. So here I am, like 25-year-old female working out like a big guy.
God. Yeah. Not
Injury.
eating. Yeah. Binging, not eating. And then
Exactly. And by
my
that time,
portal.
yeah, the binges were like almost non-existent at that point in
Okay.
time, but it still wasn't overly healthy. So I was overtraining, working on the mindset, and just kind of scrambling, just trying to bring it all together and
Uh-huh.
just looking for what is the next answer, the next answer, and the next answer. So, gosh, that it took me about 15 years to really get stable
Yeah.
with working through that.
And so at the time you became like a weight loss coach by opening up your own center.
I
Then
did.
what made you, because I remember correctly, because you were in real estate or mortgage broking before too, because you
Yes,
just
yes,
retired.
I was in real estate. So
Okay.
I ran that for about 4 years, but the income was pretty low.
Okay.
And I had a baby during that time, so I went back into real. I had been in real estate prior because my
Okay.
dad owned a company. I went back into that, and I was in the financial real estate and mortgage career up until just earlier this year.
Yeah. So what inspired you to continue like with the coaching throughout that time as well? And up until this point?
Well, I did really no coaching back
Oh,
then.
really? You
I
took a
mean,
Okay.
because finding a coach, you had to find a person and you had to go to that person.
Right.
And I had one kid, then I ended up with another one, and then ended up with a third one. And it's
Yeah.
like my time is very limited. So I would get up early in the morning before they got out of bed, do my training,
Uh-huh.
work, do my self-help. But honestly, it was all self-help. I think had I had resources like this, I would have cut 20 years out of that entire
Really?
process.
And
Yeah.
did you do any competitions too at the time?
Well, when I was about 40, yeah,
Okay.
I was 40, and things were really starting to fall in line. The kids were a little bit older. I had
Uh-huh.
more time for myself. And my ex-husband, my husband at the time, brought home this little flyer, and it was a bodybuilding
Oh,
competition.
no.
And he says, I think you should do this. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Get on a stage in a bikini and strut about. But I just always like challenges. I'm somebody
Yeah.
that works really well when I have an intention set.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. So I bought videos to learn how to walk on stage. I bought the high heels and the bathing suit, all that. But I'm
Uh-huh.
like, now what do I do with his body here?
Yeah.
So I just created my own training program. Did that for 6 months. I only trained for 6 months. Very, very basic whole food diet.
Uh-huh.
Got on stage and I entered every category because I thought, well, I just want to practice. So there
Yeah.
were like 5 or 6 categories. I entered all of those. And it was a natural, small bodybuilding competition. It wasn't anything big.
Mhm.
But I won every category first place. And then I won the overall and the best poser. And that night I came home so jacked up. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that was fun. It was a challenge. I met the challenge. I want to do that again. So I started moving up in the ranks into larger and larger shows until I got to the NPC, which is the bigger one, not necessarily natural, but I never did steroids or drugs or anything like that. I did that for a few years, took some time off. Eventually, 20 years of competing on and off. I competed
Wow.
at 54, 57. My last one was at 60. I promised my husband I'm not going to do it again
Uh-huh.
because it's a very, very restrictive lifestyle and
Yeah.
very disciplined lifestyle. It's not something that you want to do in your everyday life.
I was going to ask, like, so those 20 years, you had worked on your relationship with yourself and your mindset, your nutrition, and all the things.
Mhm.
You had this training schedule that you built into your life. So you identify as like, okay, I do work out,
Right.
but what was that like? Do you feel like those old patterns of your mindset and nutrition started to creep up, or you feel like you had a good handle on them during those 20 years?
For the most part, I had a pretty good handle on
Okay.
it.
I
Uh,
think that's pretty atypical.
yeah, but I can tell you that the little voice never. Have you ever seen that show called Dexter? He's a
Yes. Yeah.
serial
Yeah.
killer. So his serial killer portion of himself, he called that dark passenger that was
Uh-huh.
always on his shoulder. So I called my dark passenger Annie Anorexic because she thought that if you just get skinny enough,
Yeah.
then all your problems are solved. Then
Right.
you're happy. So, I mean, back when I was going through the eating disorder, I went through anorexia for a while too, because I thought, well, just stop eating is the best way to do that.
Mhm.
But I wasn't very successful because I didn't get the IV and they didn't check me in. So it was like, well, I can't even be as
Yeah,
successful.
failure. So there's your nothing. Way to go, Laura.
Right. Yeah. So really I had a lot of stability, but I never really just completely let my guard down.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I relax. I'm not stressed about it, but that little voice every now and then will just like pop up, like, well, you should do this, or how about this, or I feel this way.
Mhm.
And but it's very light. It's very non-committal. It's just kind of a little poke every now and then, and I just tell it back. No, that's not what we're doing. We're going to be balanced. We're going to have a healthy lifestyle, and that's not the direction I'm going to want to go.
So taking that mindset, because I do, so let's circle that back to the bodybuilding competition, because you said like actually had a pretty good mindset going into it, which you and I both know is tends to be atypical, like I mentioned.
Uh-huh.
So someone that's listening to this that, identifies with you or maybe identifies with the personality of all or nothing or perfectionism, or, they're ready to take it to the next level and they believe like a bodybuilding show is that, what recommendations would you have on their foundations prior to doing something like that? So what would you say in other terms of, you need to make sure that you have these on lock before you actually do this?
Yes. You first of all have to make sure that your sleep is in order because
Really?
if you don't sleep well, you can't recover, you
Uh-huh.
can't work out, you're going to crave sugar and carbs, you're going to go overboard, you're going to want to drink too much just to try to relax.
Yeah.
So sleep is very important. But I think the biggest part is going into that knowing that when you compete, and I don't train competitors for this
Right.
very reason. Competing is planned imbalance. So you're getting your body into a specific shape in order to prep for the competition.
Uh-huh.
Before you begin prep, that's when the body is in great balance. But preparation for a show, you do have to strip a lot of fat off your body because you want to see what's underneath. So you are very imbalanced when it comes to the eating, which can lead to disordered eating. Because once you see those abs, once you see what's underneath, it's like, oh, I like that. I just want to live that way the rest of my life. But that is absolutely not reasonable. And it's not healthy. Your hormones go out of balance. Your exercise becomes a major priority. Social life goes into the tank. I mean, I remember taking Tupperware to parties and even out to dinner. I'd eat
Oh
my
my gosh.
Tupperware in restaurants. I mean, it's a very imbalanced lifestyle. So anybody thinking of doing this, your mindset has to be very clear, knowing that I'm going to go out of balance, but then I'm going to come back into balance when it's over. And the piece that most people miss is the rebalancing afterwards. They do all the prep for the show, and then afterwards, it's like, now what do I do? The body's starving. So most women and men, but primarily women, will start binging after the show. Yeah. So, and that's why I don't work with competitors. I mean, it's a great experience, but at the same time, it feeds into imbalance. And if you don't come out of it properly, then it can create kind of a snowball effect of imbalance in the future.
Well, I would equate it to like if you don't come out of the bulimia cycle or the anorexia cycle or the drug cycle properly, and properly can look different for everybody, but in general, then you're going back into that cycle. And for the bodybuilding, it's, you're getting almost affirmation, because your body looked good and you want a prize, right? So I've like, it only circulates that positive reinforcement of I need to keep doing it. I need to keep doing it.
Exactly. Particularly if in your childhood you are praised for successes, then that message in the mind becomes seeking that praise. It's like, I'm only good if I'm at the top. I'm only good if I succeed.
Right.
So, I mean, I do love to work with competitors that have retired that aren't doing it anymore to help them get back into that balance.
Yeah.
Now, I was fortunate. I worked with, let's see, 4 different coaches when I competed. And I didn't switch coaches because any of them were bad. They were all good. But I found that each coach gave me just something a little bit more.
Right.
Like when we have people that come to us, they may have had 3 or 4 other coaches, but they're getting something new with us.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And my last coach, I was having digestive issues and I was having hormonal issues. And she said, Laura, you should not compete because all we're going to do is make these worse.
Good for her.
Yeah, she was wonderful. So I said, no, I'm going to compete.
Of course.
And she knew I would find another coach if she didn't do it. But she really worked with me on my gut health and on my hormonal health. And took me into that. Actually, my last 2 coaches did great on that, took me into it, won the prize, and then worked another 6 months to a year after that with the rebalancing. So I was just so fortunate to find somebody like that, because that's just not usually how it goes.
Is that what got you interested in kind of the certifications and the specialties that you have? Is your experience with the hormone rebalance and whatnot through your own experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I was 54, I hit menopause really, really hard.
Okay.
And it was after a competition because I was out of balance. So I went to bed in one body. The next day I woke up in another body, like black and white. There was no transition whatsoever.
Really?
None. And as that progressed, now I did go on bioidentical hormones fairly soon. I made that decision inside.
Yeah.
Beforehand. It's like, when I hit menopause, I'm not going to fart around.
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever I need to do. So I was able to get my hormones balanced pretty quickly, but my digestive tract was just really, really messed up from just limiting the food and limiting food groups, and just my gut biome was just really screwed up. So when I worked with that last coach and she talked about my gut health, it really spurred something in my brain. And I thought, I need to learn more about this gut health, because our hormone production happens inside of our gut.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have gut dysbiosis, we're in perimenopause or postmenopause, and our hormones can't convert properly, that is just the perfect storm for fatigue, body aches, depression, weight gain, sleeplessness.
I interrupt this episode to bring you our December promo, and this is our introductory offer on the Mindset Method Movement, our revamped group coaching program. This program is unlike any other group coaching program out on the market and is going to be priced so competitively because we want everyone to take advantage of this. In our program, you will begin working from the inside out on your relationship with your body, food, and self-worth through the Mindset Method curriculum. In my Mindset of Matter app, every Monday, you will receive a reflection that will help you work through why you struggle with control over food, why your food noise is so loud, why you hate the image you see in the mirror. Then from there, you get to take the information that you've learned and bring it to one of 2 coaching calls per week. Yes, per week. And for those who sign up now, you'll be working directly with me. So you get to process all of that stuff with yours truly. You'll also get access to our on-demand training program that includes gym, at-home, time crunch, body weight, and core workouts that change every single month and all build on each other to basically create the body of your dreams. You will get custom nutrition coaching from one of my expert coaches, depending on your specific needs, whether that's autoimmune issues, peri-postmenopause, prenatal or postnatal, or general nutrition. We have someone here at the Mindset It Matter for you. And last but not least, you will have access to an amazing community of like-minded individuals who are looking to do something different in regards to changing their relationship with themselves mentally and physically. And for this introductory offer, we are offering our group coaching program for $275 a month with a 30-day cancellation notice. This is literally the same price that other coaching programs charge just for nutrition coaching. And if you sign up in December, you will be moved right into our Winter Wellness Challenge. You're going to jump right in, and we're going to do that at no additional cost. So you can start working with us today at no additional costs. So if you're ready to change your relationship with yourself through your mindset, through your movement, through your nutrition, check out the show notes below for more information. Now, back to the show.
And so I found just a wonderful course with functional diagnostic nutrition. And I went through, it was a year-long course. It was absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
It was 5 oral tests, a 2-month-long written test. But I did all of the testing on myself for gut and hormones and all of that, and was able to do some corrective measures to heal my gut. It took me probably 3 years to heal my gut.
Wow.
But now that my gut is healed, I find that I have a lot more metabolic flexibility. So that, every now and then I can have dinners out, I can have some alcohol, I can just, not live in that box all the time.
Yeah.
And have it not put on the weight, not cause depression. And so I really, really like to work with my clients on their gut health. I mean, we, of course, can't prescribe anything, but there are so many natural things you can do to heal your gut. That's a real biggie for me.
Or even lead them in the appropriate direction, as opposed to like drink this like kombucha every day to heal your gut. And it's like, or like, that's just a lot of sugar that's going to our gut.
That is true.
Yeah. Like maybe we don't need kombucha. Maybe we actually need like these supplements or maybe this testing to confirm. Yeah.
And so a lot of what I do with my clients is I give them questions to ask their medical provider. So okay. For hormone testing, or thyroid is something I'm very skilled in. I love working with thyroid patients. They're clients for us, patients for their doctors, right? But most doctors do not run a full hormone panel or thyroid panel. They run TSH and maybe T4.
Yeah.
Those 2 things tell us absolutely fucking nothing. There are 9 different tests to run. One of them is not even on the lab order, so they have to write it in. So I like to teach my clients to be advocates for their own health, rather than just walk into a doctor's office, do what they say to do, because honestly, they just don't get the nutrition training in medical school. And that's not their role. Their role is not to help you be healthy. Their role is to diagnose and prescribe. So we can't assume that they're going to help us build our health. And you can't lose fat until you build health.
Right.
If you're in poor health, you will just struggle all the time. You can go on any diet in the world. You can go on keto, you can go on carnivore, you can go vegan, you can go on paleo. But if your gut health is not in order, your hormones aren't balanced, you're not getting the rest and recovery, you're just spinning your wheels.
And not in terms of, I would say spinning your wheels in terms of like, I would maybe body comp goals or even like
Yes.
but nutritional like needs for your body as well.
Uh-huh.
If you're like you're talking about, if your gut isn't essentially absorbing the nutrients, and nutrients are from food that we eat, and
Right.
hopefully it's a variety of food, but if we can't eat a variety of food because it upsets our gut,
Uh-huh.
then our body is depleted of those nutrients. Well, then our bodies can't make the hormones like you're talking about, and thyroid is like a hormone essentially.
Yeah, it's
And
one of the
so
biggest hormones.
it's a whole cycle. Interesting. And
Yeah.
so when you're looking at that, so you're looking at gut health, thyroid, hormone panels, then what are some like red flags that you would see with clients that indicate there's an issue going on? Like something, because we can talk about like the nutrients and how it's not getting absorbed, but someone may not recognize that. They may just think like, oh, it's just part of like my body. It's always been like this.
Right. I mean, first I look at symptoms always.
Yeah.
And I prefer to work with women over 40 or over 50 because I know that. I know that. I live in a female body. I don't work with men.
Yeah.
I don't live in a man's body. I can't describe to you what that process is like.
Right.
Yeah.
So what symptoms would you say are common that you see with like poor gut health or thyroid imbalances or hormone imbalances?
Skin issues.
Okay.
Number one, skin issues originate in the gut. Histamine issues like congestion, overall fatigue, joint pain. That's an inflammatory condition. I talk a lot about lowering inflammation in the body. And I'm not talking about your hands or your feet are swollen. I'm talking about cellular inflammation. Because when we lower the inflammation in the body, then all of those systems start working together. And the mind-body connection, working on the mental state, because if your body is not functioning properly, that's where depression comes in. Self-criticism, self-criticizing yourself constantly in the mirror, picking on, pinching your fat, like, and another, it's not really a symptom, but history. I always look at a client's diet history because those that have over dieted in the past, generally that has created adaptation in the metabolism. So, if I'm always dieting, I'm eating 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 calories, the metabolism's darn smart. It wants to survive. So it's just going to adapt.
Yeah.
Just survive at those calories. So diet history is a huge indicator of the current state of the metabolism.
Yeah. So what I want clients to hear, potential listeners and whatnot, is because a lot of times we'll hear for the 40, 50, 60-year-olds is that they're too old, like it just is what it is, right? And your evidence that that's not true. Christina's evidence that that's not true. And we have, thousands of clients of evidence that's not true. But the ship is not too late to turn back. But it does take a lot of work, like you're explaining, like we've got to look at the root causes. And I think going back to even your conversation with the medical providers, some are going to look at their root causes depending on their path of education, but some are, and they believe they're treating the problem, right? And I believe most people have a good intention in that sense, but the problem may not actually be the like rosacea or the eczema. Why is there rosacea or eczema? Why is there like brittle nails or whatever it is?
Exactly. So we're either treating the symptom or we're resolving the problem.
Right.
And if you solve the problem, then you don't have to treat the symptom.
Right.
Well, to me,
resolving the problem may take longer than treating the symptom, but overall, then we avoid a medication or like a cream that we don't have to use forever.
True. But if you treat the symptom, that's actually longer because the problem never goes away.
Right.
And then the medication can create another problem.
Yeah.
So most people that come to us or any coach are looking to change their aesthetics, right? The outside.
Of course.
But I like to say, focus on the health and the aesthetics will follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to that back in the 70s. There's this great book. It's called The Path of Least Resistance. I think the author is Robert Fritz. I don't even think you can buy the book anymore. I bought like the last 2 copies I can find.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the basis of this book it's like a stream where, a stream flows naturally and you've got all the big rocks in the middle of it.
Uh-huh.
And the stream doesn't go over that rocks, it goes around it, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's the path of least resistance. So when somebody's like dieting, putting themselves in a box, trying to force the issue, but their health isn't in order, they're trying to push that river over the rock. You can't push water over the top of a rock because it will naturally go around it. So what you do is you look at the rock and say, how do I move this rock? Once you move that rock, whatever that resistance is in your way, whether it's insulin resistance, weight loss resistance, poor nutrient uptake, imbalanced thyroid, you work on that rock, you remove the rock, guess where the river goes?
Interesting.
Right down the center, right where you want it to go.
So, and I think it's important to think of the rock of like, I'm not picking it up and moving it. I may just be like scooching it too, just little by little over time.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, because it is a process.
Yeah.
And one thing I need clients to know is that we're not doing this in 30 days. We're not doing it in 60 days. We're probably not doing it in 90 or 120 days. But what we're doing during that time is we're, like you said, chipping away at that rock. We're resolving each one of these underlying issues bit by bit by bit, because you can't do it overnight.
Right.
If you tried, it won't stick.
Right.
So we're creating new habits. I'm not going to say replacing old habits, we're resolving old habits so that we're just kind of disintegrating those. We're bringing new habits into place gradually. Like each week we work on a couple new habits each week, and then we just build on those. And then over time, it becomes easier and easier and easier.
Got it.
That makes sense?
Well, yeah. And then it becomes something that you're not even thinking about as a new habit either. It becomes part of who you are.
It becomes automatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I go to a restaurant, I don't have to decide what to eat.
Right. Like, okay, I'll get the chicken breast instead of the fried chicken, and that's okay. But if I want the fried chicken, I will.
Exactly.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, going back to the coaching sphere and your experience is you had heard of Christina or saw her on a podcast, I believe you said. And what resonated with you with the way she was communicating our message? Like what made you decide not only like, one, I want to try this program, but two, I want to work with this program. Like I want to promote this program. I want to be associated with this program.
Christina and you are the only coaches online. And believe me, I'm 2 to 3 hours a day of YouTube videos while I'm doing chores and working.
Are you really?
Yes. This is the only podcast and program I have seen anywhere that combines mindset with nutrition and workout programming.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really having issues at the time when I contacted Christina, but on the podcast, I heard her, she was on with one of her clients. And one of her clients was talking about how much her mindset changed during the program. And I'm just so into that. So when I went into the program more as another form of study, because I wanted to learn, what does this chick teach?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is this?
Yeah, because she's getting really good results.
Yeah.
And throughout that program, I identified my little dark passenger, my anorexic. I went back and had a chat with her because all those messages weren't necessarily gone. They were lighter, but I was able to go through and resolve at an even deeper level. And it just really, when you say resonate, I love that word because it just made me feel calm inside.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to always be running and running and running, searching for answers. And when you're wanting to lose weight, you're not comfortable in your body, it creates this internal panic. And I see that online everywhere.
Yeah.
People searching for answers. And the program just creates such a calmness inside that then everything else starts to work. And I'm not just talking about diet, nutrition, exercise. I'm just talking about life.
Right.
Life starts getting better. You start finding more joy. You start doing more things, becoming more active, living life rather than trying to manipulate life. And when I graduated out of the program, that Christine knew I was a coach.
Yeah.
She has a coach. Every coach has a coach.
Yep.
Because we all need some external input to reevaluate how we're feeling, how we're thinking, and learn and grow, right? So she said, Laura, I think you might be a good fit for us. And she knew I was retiring out of the financial industry and would have some time on my hands.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit and watch TV all day, although I do like that here and there. So she approached me and I thought, I think I'd really like to do this. I have my own company as well, where I do all the gut testing and the hormone testing and all that. But this program just kind of brings everything together in one place. And
yeah.
That's what I loved about it.
That was my thoughts on it too. Cause I kind of had my own virtual thing. And then it was like, why am I doing this? Because like, it's all there already for me. Mm-hmm. And there's pros and cons to each way that you decide to go as a coach, if you're listening. But it's nice to have the structure of a background of someone who has the experience and the education to create it for you, and you use it as a guide and a blueprint for your clients. Because I've caught myself, even like with my in-person clients, that I use what we do here into them. They're not going through like this structured program, but I definitely utilize the resources that we have and the tools or the questions, even the prompts with them too. So yes. I think like from a coach's perspective that could be listening, your experience of being like, this is interesting. I'm going to try it for myself because I am a coach and I am into wellness and health and fitness and whatnot. And then being able to remember like, and again, the progress you've made, like, okay, I had Annie anorexic and I thought she was kind of on the back burner and I was good. But then I realized there are some ways that she's still popping up in here. And so that's so valuable too, for you to be able to connect with clients in that way of saying like, look, I know it's hard and I know you're going through it. I promise it'll get better. But even when it does get better, there's still room for like progress. Unfortunately, it never goes away.
Yeah.
It just gets better.
Yeah. I mean, life is a journey. We're always growing. We're always changing.
Yeah.
And what I think our clients need to know is that coaches are coaches for a reason. Mm-hmm. We all had a fucking problem.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
And we fixed it.
Yeah.
And we're continuing to work on ourselves. So it's not that we're special. It's just that we're further ahead in the game and have the knowledge that we can bring back and pull people forward, lead people along that pathway from that knowledge.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I was interacting with somebody one time and they had made the statement along the lines that, I'm going to butcher this, but of, they felt like coaches have come so far along that they find it challenging to understand where that client potentially is for them right now. Like, so for example, you and I are working together and you're so far ahead of like the binge eating where I'm just continuing to binge eat that I don't think you can understand where I'm coming from. And I almost challenged her of like, I think if anything, I understand even more of where you're coming from, because I understand the hardship you're about to face. Like you think it's hard in that moment in the next day, but I'm telling you, I understand where it's going to be hard in a month from now or in 3 years from now when shit hits the fan. Yeah. And that doesn't make me better than you. It just makes me be able to help predict this with you and give you tools.
Exactly. Because we've walked in those shoes. Yeah. Now, there are some coaches that I would agree that statement was correct.
Oh, yeah.
But not here, because what we do is and that's why we have a full team of coaches.
Right.
We all have different experiences. We all specialize in different things so that any client coming in can be matched with the most appropriate coach that has been in your shoes. Mm-hmm. And because we can go back, like when I'm in a session with a client, and she's talking about something that I've been through, I don't put myself in my old shoes. I put myself in her shoes.
Correct.
in that moment in time, where is she on that path?
Right.
And when I do that, I can feel what she's going through. I mean, we have a lot of empathy because it takes a lot of open honesty to be a coach.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of vulnerability on our end too, because when to be transparent, when I first started, it was like, I didn't want to share that I underate, overexercise, hated my body image, like all the shit that we talk about.
Right.
But then I realized once I started cracking that book open, it not only relieved me of that pain, almost like cathartic, but, and not to be selfish about it, but it almost relieved me of that. But in addition, it allowed people to see that I wasn't better than them, that I was equal. Yeah.
Yeah, we are not Photoshopped Instagram girls.
No, we're terrible at it.
We're perfect all the time, and we walk around with our midriff showing abs all the time. No, we don't do that. Do my abs all show all the time? No. Do I know how to make them show 30 days from now? Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the difference, is that we're not perfect. We're not special. We're not extreme. We are real people that have figured out how to manage life and food.
Right.
And exercise. And it's not, I'm going to say something that might trigger some people. It's not that difficult. It's difficult to get there.
Yeah.
But it's more difficult not to go down that path. You know, I hear people say, well, I just gave up on my diet because I want to enjoy life.
Right.
Well, enjoying life in that sense means overeating, drinking, staying out late, whatever. Is that honestly bringing enjoyment? It's bringing enjoyment in the moment, but it's harder not to go down this path than it is to go down the path.
Right.
I believe that, because I've seen people come back time and time again online asking for the same help that they asked for 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Yes.
Look, and I see that. I'm like, do you already have, and this is, I don't want to turn this into a bitch bash, but like, I'm like, you asked this question like 3 months ago. And because I remember, you remember seeing the question, but you're like, are you just looking for different answers at this time or reassurance? Like, that's something I've been wanting to ask Christina about, is like the psychology of that, of what that is.
Well, what that tells me is they're not ready.
Yes.
They're not ready for the answer. And that's okay. Yes, it drives me crazy, but it's also okay.
Yeah.
Because at some point they will be ready for that answer.
They'll be open.
If we each look back in our history, we did the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
That irritates us now, but we tried all the shit.
I know.
And it's like, I did this diet, this diet, this diet. My favorite one was Richard Simmons' Deal a Meal, where you had this little thing that you had cards and you moved over.
Oh, okay. I remember hearing about that.
I loved that.
Oh my
But
God.
You're not going to carry around a card holder the rest of your life and deal your meals.
Like at Mastro's, like trying to decide which card I want, like for the steak or the Brussels sprout.
But I know a client's ready for me when I get a DM or something that says, I've tried this, 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 and this, and they list out 20 diets they've tried. Bam, you girl are ready for me.
So we've mentioned a lot. I want you to, this is going to be hard. Just say, what is one thing that someone that's listening to you today that identifies with you and your story? Like, what is one takeaway that you would give them?
One takeaway. Yeah. Okay. That is challenging.
I know.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Why? Why is that your answer?
Because panic is what leads you to poor decisions.
Okay.
Panic is what leads you to try something for instant results. Panic. It's that when I say the word panic, what I'm talking about is internal pain and suffering.
Okay.
That internal pain and suffering can be so big.
Yeah.
For me, okay, we're being transparent. I had 2 suicide attempts during that time frame I was telling you about with my eating disorder, because the pain and suffering was so big. So what I like to help people with is to just know that you can just relax inside. Just tone it down a little bit. Just take a breath. You don't need to find an answer today that's going to lose you 30 pounds in 30 days. You don't need a diet pill. You don't need a challenge. You don't need to do just anything that in order to make that panic go away.
Mm-hmm.
Just relax the panic a little bit, settle down. We have answers. There is a way out of this. There's not necessarily an easy, fast way out of this. But when the panic is lower, then you can dedicate yourself to a lifetime journey of positive changes every single day, instead of pushing yourself into something completely unrealistic for 30 or 60 days, crashing, creating more pain and suffering, and then doing it all over again. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I was going to say, Laura, that's a great message.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, you need to not be nervous next time we do this. Like, that was a really, because I was not expecting that, because you don't hear, don't panic. We've got the time, we've got the sources and the tools for you. You often hear just try and hit your protein. Just try and get some sunlight. It was a very, off-colored is not like the right term because it's not derogatory, but it was a very off script from what you normally hear. And I think it was really nice, a variety from that message that we get from the fitness industry.
Yeah. I mean, macros, working out, protein,
right.
All of those things are important, but we're not going to get there if we're working in this hyperactive, stressed state.
Yeah.
We gotcha.
Yeah.
It's very important to trust somebody, and it's hard to trust somebody.
It's incredibly hard.
It really is, because there are things we might recommend or say that hit a hot button.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I know there are.
Yeah, my hand's been burned on the stove a couple times.
But it's those hot buttons that we need to look at, because those are what's going to elicit the change.
Right. So Laura, if people want to hear more of your message, where can they find you?
I'm on Facebook at Laura Painter, and then I have initials FDNP after it. That's Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. I worked very hard for those initials, so I put them
there, girl.
Instagram, the same. I'm not as good with Instagram because, I'm older. I didn't grow up with computers.
That's okay.
And my email is laura@mindsetofmatter.com.
Perfect. So if you want to work with Laura and get more to know about her, you can find her at those handles. If you'd like to schedule a clarity call and work with Laura, please see the link below. We'd be more than happy to have you on her team so she can improve you in all ways other than just how you look. And if there's one thing that you need to take away from this message today, it's just this: what you say in the mind, you see in the mirror. Goodbye.